We are to look at the food basket in the region. There are three things. There are things that we eat that we cannot produce, but is necessary because of cost, because of pricing, because of socialization. Things like corn meal. We don't produce enough corn to make wheat flour. The CaRAPN is a consumer of flour. We don't produce these things. Therefore, they're there. We can produce cassava flour, but in what quantity? So there are some things that we just don't produce, and we should leave that. There's another set of things that we can produce. And so we should concentrate on those things that we can produce and do it well. And there's another set of things for subsistence farming, where for food security, for these things, where you have the farmers with their 2 square feet on the backyard garden, where whether we say to produce or not, you will have these farmers that will be producing these things, and so will leave them. So there's 3 levels of organization for agriculture and our food security. We need to concentrate on 2. What is it that we can produce well? Produce it so that we can have economies of scale in the production, and we can have some amount of food security for our people in that scale.
Food security is a broad area, but it is related to agriculture in many respects. And one of the things that we have been emphasizing in IICA for several years now has been the importance of investing more in agriculture. There needs to be investments more in agriculture, and those investments should be targeted on a few things. You have to increase, or countries need to increase their total production and productivity in agriculture. That is to make agriculture more efficient. The second thing is to make it more competitive. So by making agriculture more competitive, countries can export their agricultural products, or they can compete with imports of food. And the third thing is that, and this is very important for people engaged in agriculture, is to look at agriculture as a business. It's no longer farming. Farming is a very small part of agriculture. But to deal with agriculture as a business, so that you deal with agriculture in a very competitive way, a very efficient way, and in a business way also. So it's no longer a subsistent type of activity, economic activity for many people. In many of these countries, you still have pockets of people that are subsisting on agriculture. But the emphasis is a more business approach to agriculture, dealing with food chains from the farm all the way to processing and marketing and distribution and all that kind of thing.
You know, what came out of the first year of CWA is that really and truly we've been doing a lot, right? We don't want to reinvent wheels, but there are things that we have not even given a chance, you know, lots of budding ideas in the society, and we must give a chance to innovative ideas.
Well, we do help each other. Nowadays we do help each other, and then we have a great relationship.
Yeah, as women in the group together, we have the same goal, the same desires.
I would hardly be so presumptuous as to suggest anything to governments, and I say this without being facetious. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't see myself as a repository of all this knowledge about nutrition. I just know that there are certain crucial things to me. I learned in biology a long while ago that life is built on growth, respiration, irritability, movement, nutrition, not food, excretion, reproduction. Grimner, your science of life. And to me, if we are going to be concerned enough to have a policy on nutrition, then we must be able to make the distinction between food and nutrition in the same way that we make, and I'm sorry to be this old example, the distinction we make between housing and shelter. When a government is committed to provide a basic need, the basic need is shelter. It's not necessarily housing. You don't expect everybody to be able to live in Stony Hill and have a view. expect shelter. In the same way, if you take in nutrition security, then people must have access to the carbohydrate and protein sources, and so that will sustain life. And I think that would be my advice, quote unquote, to all governments everywhere, to make sure that you secure nutrition policy.
They need to plan and work out their labor, not killing out themselves, but work with a goal. Work with a goal. You want something, work with a goal to get it.
We believe agriculture is important because people must eat. They have to feed the nation.
I guess the first thing, the best practices, well, if we can put it that way, is education. Education all the way.
In permaculture, we believe that every household should be surrounded by nutritious food that's grown in soils that are nutritious as well. So that is the basic ground root level going up, so that if every house surrounded itself with nutritious food, we would almost immediately start taking care of food security issues, nutrition issues, availability issues, all those kinds of things, just by addressing the household level to start with. Even if it's a small community or a big community, whatever you can grow around your house, if you can grow it simply and efficiently, it's a good way to start.
This field you're looking at on this side, this is an old field. This field is about 4 years old, and you could hardly see weeds growing there.
Why is that?
Because of the plastic mulch.
So once you apply the plastic, that's it.
Finished.
Do you use pesticides?
None whatsoever. There are no pesticides used on this farm.
Is that a conscious decision?
Conscious decision.
And why is that?
Because I intend to grow a lot of the things I want to eat. So I want to have organic food. Yeah. So I don't use. I don't use any herbicides. My grass is cut.
Oh, you see.
Essentially, what we have to recognize is that our own existence within the Caribbean region, agriculture, essentially food and food's direct relationship with agriculture is central to our own existence. We have two issues, and you would find that a lot of the development agencies recognize youth and women as vulnerable groups, and particularly in rural areas. We have a situation where we still have significantly large percentages of people living in rural areas. We're looking at the order of 25%. There is a lot of talk about the urbanization and the movement of people from the rural areas. We still have a significant number of youth and women living in the rural areas where in some point or the other agriculture forms part of the main income earning activity.
Over the years we had like just about $60,000 EC per year. And we would make do with this. Again, it was just pure economics. So we would purchase quite a bit of rice and quite a bit of flour because we basically had to spread that amount, in terms of carbohydrates. Right now, we are looking at something like $240,000.
We will always need food. As long as you're alive, you must eat. It is as plain as everything else that you see on the surface of the earth. What do? Do we buy our food or do we produce our food? To buy your food, you need money. Do you have the money to buy your food? That is the essence. That is the essential thing. And we normally say that we learn from our own experiences. One of the things that we learned in 2008 from the food crisis, whether it was artificial or otherwise, was that we do not have the money to buy the food to feed ourselves, and at the same time provide the essential services of health, education, sanitation, and everything else that we need. So there must be a trade-off. Do we have the potential to produce our food? I dare say, yes, we have the potential to produce all our food needs and more. But are we doing it? No, because our policies are skewed towards tourism at the expense of agriculture. My argument is, I am not knocking tourism, but there's room for both of them. Instead of having a monopillar economy, we could have a a two-pillar economy or triple-pillar economy. It's just for we to accept and recognize the importance of these different sectors in promoting the economy.
I think with every marketing strategy that you can apply, you could probably come up with strategies that would help to encourage youth to get into agriculture.
If we look at all along the road around the world in terms of the inventions that we have seen, the innovation, scientific research, all that we have seen, most of these things stem from youthful minds. All right? Because the environment exists in which the creative capacities can be put to the test. And this is what we have to allow. Create that enabling environment for our youth for their full participation.
My institution, like some of the other institutions in the region, try to assist and support governments with developing good policies and strategies for remedying or finding solutions to problems, and also going the gamut then of also building capacity within the region in ministries of agriculture, in extension divisions, and more recently also building capacity in the field in terms of helping farmers through farmer field schools, because farmers themselves are teachers as well, and they have a lot also that they can teach other farmers, and they can teach even some technicians. So we are learning the best practices from them, sharing it with others, and that is some of what we do. We try to bring best practices from other parts of the world as well through South-South cooperation and in other areas to bear, so that we help to develop further agriculture in a very speedy way, as speedy as possible.
If you create a pull on production, the production will fall in place. But if you are producing without creating the pull on the production, then the production will always be sporadic. If we teach our children or teach our population to eat more sweet potato, then we will always have people producing sweet potato. If we teach our people to eat good quality pork, then we will always have people producing to feed that.
And agriculture has a very interesting environmental function. A lot of it, which is not reflected in our policies. A lot of people, the bulk of the people in our societies live in the urban areas. All right? But when we look about watershed production, who plants the trees? Are these the people within the urban areas who plant the trees? No, the farmers plant the trees, which has the environmental function, procuring oxygen, absorbing carbon dioxide from the thing, maintaining our watersheds, interestingly, maintaining our watersheds to provide water to feed these whole urban areas in addition to the rural areas. Fresh, wholesome water. What happens to that environmental function is disregarded. There have been talk, and you have seen the whole emergence of carbon credits and all these things. But how do we take these carbon credits and bring it down to the rural communities who are actually, where the farmers are actually providing, actually performing that particular function? Do we ask the people who live in urban areas to pay a special levy, a special tax, to continue to fund the agriculture sector in rural areas? This is a debate in some countries. I think it is a valid debate that we should have at this time. If somebody is going to plant the trees, to clean your air, to provide you with fresh, clean water, that person needs to be compensated for that work he's doing.
One of the things that we have going for us in Dominica, which augurs well for the program, is that you have fishermen in different villages and of different fisheries organizations. And we have made contacts from the schools to get them to bring in fish at the schools. It has gone as far as getting fishermen who have children themselves at the schools. Instead of making a contribution of just about $1 per meal for the children, what they would do is they would bring contributions in kind.